Assalamu alaikum, I'm Aisha and you're watching Samaa News. Here are today's headlines.
US President Donald Trump is set to hold a rare cabinet meeting at Camp David as negotiations with Iran approach a critical stage. According to reports, the high-level discussions will focus heavily on Iran, alongside the US economy and wider regional tensions.
Iran's Supreme Leader Mujtaba Khamenei has said the United States will not be allowed to establish more military bases in the region and declared that the future belongs to the Muslim Ummah and a new Islamic civilization. In a statement shared on a telegram, Khamenei said Gulf powers would no longer serve as a shield for American military bases and that the United States would no longer enjoy safe havens in the region. The statement came as Tehran and Washington continued discussions on a framework aimed at ending their 3-month-old dispute.
Iran has reportedly demanded the release of $24 billion in frozen assets as part of ongoing negotiations with the United States to end the conflict. Iranian media reported that Tehran wants half the funds released immediately after a memorandum of understanding is announced, with Qatar playing a key mediation role in the talks. Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says it has shot down a US MQ-9 drone after it allegedly entered Iranian airspace. The IRGC also warned it would respond to any further violations as US-Iran negotiations continue, with officials on both sides cautioning that a final agreement to end the conflict may still take time. Meanwhile, President Masoud Pezeshkian has praised Iran's military capabilities after US strikes in southern Iran that Tehran called a violation of the fragile ceasefire. The remarks come amid tensions between the two nations and the implications of military actions in the region. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said that the Strait of Hormuz has to be open, one way or the other, following recent US strikes on Iran. Speaking during a visit to India, Rubio also said finalizing the language of a potential agreement with Tehran could still take several days.
Senior Iranian Armed Forces spokesperson Abul Fazl Shakharchi has warned that any new aggression against Iran would trigger a much harsher response than before. He said that if another war were imposed on Iran, the conflict would spread beyond the region's borders. He warned that Iran's future attacks would be heavier and more violent. He also cautioned adversaries against what he called any adventure against Iran. On the other hand, US President Donald Trump has called on Iran to immediately hand over its enriched uranium or destroy it under supervision, placing Tehran's nuclear material at the center of renewed diplomatic pressure. In a message on Truth Social, Trump said Iran's enriched uranium should be immediately turned over to the United States. Trump referred to the enriched uranium as nuclear dust in his statement and said it could preferably be destroyed in cooperation and coordination with Iran. Russia has said that it intends to launch systematic strikes on targets in Kyiv linked to the Ukrainian military, as well as decision-making centers, and urged foreigners to leave, a day after one of its heaviest bombardments of the city since the start of the war. But Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andrei Sybiha urged Kyiv's allies not to give in to Russian blackmail. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told US Secretary of State Marco Rubio the impending strikes were in response to the continuing terrorist attacks by the Kyiv regime against civilians in Russia. At the beginning of the Quad meeting, Indian Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar said Australia, India, Japan and the US need to address connectivity choke points and resource concentration. He said they also needed to address issues like supply chain resilience, manufacturing and resource concentration and gaps in critical infrastructure. The meeting between the country's top diplomats, Australia's Penny Wong, India's Jaishankar, Japan's Toshimitsu Motegi and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is the third such gathering since September 2024.
And
North Korea has fired several missiles, including at least one short-range ballistic missile, toward waters off the country's west coast on Tuesday. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said in a statement the missiles were launched from Cheongju in North Korea's North Pyongan province. It is North Korea's first known missile launch since April 19th, when the country test-fired several short-range ballistic missiles, which it said were equipped with cluster bombs.
Millions of Muslim pilgrims gathered at Mount Arafat at sunset for the most important ritual of the annual Hajj pilgrimage. At Masjid Namira, Imam Sheikh Ali al-Hudayfi called for unity among Muslims during the Hajj sermon on the day of Arafah. The Imam prayed for peace, brotherhood, and better conditions for Muslims around the world.
That's all for now. For more updates, visit www.samaa.tv. Thank you for watching Samaa News.